Hello, hello. It's me, Arden Lee. I'm back today with another video, and today I would like to talk about how to avoid saying the wrong thing when you're in a time where everyone around you in your community is in pain over a really difficult incident. I am the creator of the Repatterning Project. I would love to invite you to like this video and subscribe to my channel so I can stay on your feed and leave me some comments. Let's get a dialogue going. I'd love to hear from you about the kind of things that you'd like to see me address. But without further ado, let me go ahead and get into today's topic specifically. So today I want to talk about when there is an incident or a crisis that is affecting many people within a community. And this could be something that is affecting people culturally on a very large macro level, or this could be something that is affecting a small community like, say, your friend circle, your social circle, or your family, or perhaps something that is in between where it's like maybe it's a community like a school, or a workplace environment. So you've got your macro level, you've got your micro level, and everything in between. And no matter where you are, this is going to hopefully be helpful to you to understand where to do your processing and where to do your venting. So the reason I want to get into this today, it's probably no secret if you've been watching my videos. We are at a time in our current culture in the United States of America, which is where I'm filming this video, where women everywhere are in a lot of pain over the current hearings for the Supreme Court nomination of Judge Brett Kavanaugh, who has been accused by multiple women at this point, most notably, first and foremost, Dr. Christine Ford, who just added her testimony last week to the hearing, but who now has been accused by multiple women of sexual assault. And specifically when he was in his teens, as part of the boys will be boys culture of the fraternity he belonged to, and the sort of very white bread East Coast prep school that he attended, and where the women he assaulted would often socialize. And so almost every woman I know right now first of all, almost every woman I know is a survivor. There are a few women that I know. I think I can think of 3 women who have said, I've never been sexually assaulted. It's just something that has not happened to me. But obviously I know a lot of women. So if I can only think of 3, I would guess that, most women, have been sexually assaulted at some point in their lives. And we are at this critical turning point in history where women are finally starting to speak up and talk about their experiences. And our culture is not doing very well with it, because it really, the powers that be really do not want to listen. So here we have this like microcosm of this incident where we have an amazing woman who is so brave and so courageous and so articulate, so well-spoken, coming forward to present her testimony. And she's a doctor. She has a PhD in psychology. She is so apt, so like brilliantly well equipped to make this argument and to explain everything that happened. And her delivery in answering the questions has been so calm and and level-headed. And meanwhile, we have this man who is avoiding answering the questions. He avoided answering about half the questions he was asked. Who is displaying angry, emotional outbursts, and crying and manipulating, and sometimes flat out lying, according to the New York Times. And so we have this thing that's happening in our culture now where like every woman is looking at this being like, oh my God, we all know that dude who feels like it's worse that he doesn't get to sit on the Supreme Court than the fact, like, he feels like that is a worse betrayal, his entitlement to losing his entitlement to a Supreme Court justice appointment, rather than the fact that he greatly hurt this woman when he was growing up in a way that she is still coping with today, dealing with PTSD from the assault. And so women everywhere are like, they're fed up, we're pissed off, we're not taking this any longer, we're not going to keep allowing ourselves to be treated this way. And we're angry, and all of our own assaults are being brought up. All of the stupid dudes we've known in our life who act exactly like Brett Kavanaugh, my biological father being one of them. I'm like, I recognize all these narcissistic tactics of like, oh, let me cry, like let me make myself into the victim, let me make this about me, all of this stuff that comes up. And it's just, wow, it's a lot. It's like, it's really, really a lot, right? So the thing that made me want to make this video is that a guy who's a friend of mine, who is like a really dear human that I just love with all of my being. He's a wonderful person, but he didn't know better. He reached out to me and he said, wow, I'm really having a hard time with this. And it's one thing when I can complain to men about it, and sometimes I can, like I can bring them around or whatever, but wow, it's really frustrating. I'm trying to talk to women who are disagreeing with me about women's rights. Hi, Virgil, how are you doing? You want to come say hi to the people? And I was just kind of like, I was kind of shocked a little bit. I was like, wow, this is not the complaint to be making to me. First of all, I guarantee you, no matter what kind of frustration you're feeling right now, I guarantee you I'm feeling it worse. I am, I'm a multiple count sexual assault survivor, to the point where I can't even count, I can't even count how many times I was assaulted. I don't even know where the line was. At some point, like, there was a point in my life where I just kind of gave up defending my body, which is really sad when you think about it. But that certainly happened. And, and I'm a woman. So, even while men can be survivors as well, of course, we all know men can be sexually assaulted. But this is not the week to bring that up as a derailment to the way that women are being treated on a systemic level, because you're not seeing, like a whole bunch of women on the Supreme Court who are trying to get away with shoving their vulvas into a man's face when he's an underage teenager. You just don't see that in our culture. This is about systemic oppression. This is about systemic equality, or lack thereof. So I wrote back to him and I was like, I don't want to hear it from you. Like, I'm sure you're going through a tough time. I'm not saying that it's not tough for you, but I am not the person to complain to right now. And no matter what, no matter what their politics are, no matter what you're being confronted with, I don't want to hear you complain about women this week. I just don't. I don't care. I am not the space for that. Yeah, I'm sure they're totally, internalized misogyny that happens. There's a lot of, there's so many women out there who are like standing for Brett Kavanaugh, and I'm just like, no, I'm not your space to vent about this week, and so I want to present something called ring theory. And I sent my friend this article because I do believe, like I said, he's a really good dude. This is not about poor intentions. This is just a simple sort of lack of understanding. And I've seen this come up in men who are friends of mine a lot, and I think there is something to be said for the underlying latent entitlement of men in our culture to the emotional labor of the women around them. They kind of think that if they're going through something, my friend tonight was like, well, I just thought you would be a safe space for this. I don't have anyone else to talk to. And I'm like, no, I'm not your place to vent to, because I'm dealing with my own self-care this week. I guarantee you I'm having a harder time. If anything, you should be reaching out to me and saying, hey, are you okay? Is there anything you need? I'm sure this must be very tough for you. And you know what? Maybe if you did say that, then maybe I'd be like, oh, thanks, thank you for reaching out. How are you doing? And maybe I'd say that back. But when that's your opener, when you're like texting me to complain about women, you don't want to do that. So here's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about something that's called ring theory. Ring theory I learned about in an article in the LA Times a couple years ago. And ring theory was developed by a clinical psychologist by the name of Susan Silk. And essentially, what she says is whenever there is something affecting a group of people, whether that's, for example, an entire nation, as it's affecting us right now, or like I said, whether it's, a school or a workplace environment, or, a family or a social circle, a friend group, whatever that is, I want you to imagine that a whole bunch of concentric circles, right? Circle, 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 getting bigger, like a bullseye. And the person who is most directly affected is in the center of that bullseye, and everyone else who is slightly less and less directly affected are in those rings going out. So for example, right now, in the current political turmoil that we're in right now, I'm going to say Christine Cavanaugh is right there in the bullseye, right? Now, I am experiencing a lot of pain as a survivor. All of this is very traumatic to me. But even if I did know, I'm sorry, did I say Christine Cavanaugh? I'm sorry, you guys. Clearly, I'm triggered. Can we have this be a learning experience? This is what trauma brain does. It mixes your thoughts up a lot and makes it hard to concentrate sometimes. I've been triggered all fucking week, so just bear with me. Dr. Christine Ford is at the middle of this bullseye, and she, even if I knew her, even if I knew someone who knew her, let's just pretend for a moment that I run into her at a Starbucks, right? And I see her, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Dr. Christine Ford, wow, your testimony. I've been having such a hard time this week dealing with all my trauma that's coming up. That would be rude, obviously. What I would want to say to her is I would want to say, oh my gosh, thank you for all of the work you're doing. This is such a critical juncture. I want you to know that I support you. And even though we're just here at the Starbucks, is there anything that I can do for you? Can I buy you a coffee? That's probably what I would do, right? So you want to make sure that you're not taking your venting or your processing toward people who are in rings that are closer to the center than you are, right? You want to support inward and vent outward. So as someone who is a woman and a sexual assault survivor, the people who are in the rings that are more directly toward the center, again, Dr. Christine Ford, immediate friends and family of Dr. Christine Ford, probably foremost like her husband and her kids who are, having to evacuate their home and avoid death threats and make sure that their family is physically safe, right? They would probably be the next circle. And then after that, maybe it's, the people who are, the women who are protesting, the two women who, who stopped Senator Flake outside the elevator and confronted him. Now they're thrust into the news too, and they're heroes, but they're probably also going to get a lot of threats or a lot of harassment for their bravery for standing up. So maybe they're the next circle, and et cetera, et cetera. And then you have a circle of sexual assault survivors who are women, and then maybe you have women who are not sexual assault survivors but who recognize how easily it could happen to them. Maybe you also have men who are sexual assault survivors who are saying, I understand what kind of pain you're in, and I feel bad that I feel so helpless about it because I understand what it's like to be sexually assaulted. And I understand that, even though I have more systemic privilege than you do, I know this pain and it's unfair, and I'm also hurting because of it. And then maybe you have, people who are out here who are who are men who have never been sexually assaulted. And this is just, the way that I'm doing this, I'm sure, is subjective. There will certainly be people who will probably make arguments about which rings should be in which spot. So this is just something that I'm using as an example. But this applies everywhere. So figure out for yourself what ring you're in, and only vent or process about your own feelings, your own pain, to the people who are in rings that are on the outside of yours. Don't process inward, right? If you know someone who is going through a much more difficult time, it's not the time to call them up and say, I'm having a hard time with this thing that is giving you a much more difficult time. In the original LA Times article that I read about this topic, Susan Silk, who again is the clinical psychologist who came up with ring theory in the first place, is, you all right? Virgil threw up twice earlier today. I hope he's doing okay. You all right? You feel all right? Thank you. Susan Silk, the clinical psychologist who came up with ring theory, used an example in this article about, her example was, someone who has cancer, right? Someone who is a terminally ill cancer patient, and bye. They're absolutely at the center of that bullseye. And the next ring out from that are, her immediate family. And then from there, it's, her friends. And from there, it's acquaintances, right? So if you're someone who is a friend, you don't go to her immediate family and say, wow, this is so tough for me. Well, no shit, Sherlock. You're talking to her husband and her kids. They're dealing with losing their wife and mother, I'm sure it's hard for you to lose a friend, but go talk to an acquaintance about it. Go talk to someone that she's not as close to, because that's where you should be doing your pain, your processing. That's where you should be venting your pain. It's not that your pain is not real. It's not that it's not valid. It's that the thing you want to do is make sure that you're venting that pain to people whose burden over the issue is less than yours is. And that's, it's not always immediately intuitive. Again, when that incident happened earlier today, it's not that big of a deal. It's fine. I'm happy for it. It gave me an idea for what to talk about in a video. It's like it's not the end of the world, but it really will save you some hardship and some difficulty and some crunchiness with people in your social circles. If you just take that moment to think about, where am I in the ring, and how, where are other people, which ring am I in, and where are the people who are in a ring that is closer to the center than I am? How can I support those people who are going through a more difficult time? And where are the people who are outside, so that when I need support too, that I can trust that I can go to people, and also have people to vent my own pain to, because my pain is valid too. It's just that there are people who are having a lot more of it than I am, and it's like, if you're a millionaire, you don't ask that guy, making $30,000 a year if you can borrow $50, right? If someone next to you is carrying, a 50-pound bag, you don't complain about your little shopping bag of groceries to them, right? It's not that, that it's invalid. It's just a matter of proportions, right? So anyway, so that is ring theory. So today we have learned about ring theory. Ring theory is a helpful construct to understand how to avoid saying insensitive things to the people around you when everyone is dealing with a painful incident. So do be mindful of that. And again, thank you for joining me today. I do invite you to like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you again soon.